Good evening, friends. Hope you all are doing good. So, friends, today we are going to see one of the very important chapters in our NCRT, that is manufacturing industries. So, when we say manufacturing industries, so manufacturing is a part of the industry. Industry does not mean only manufacturing. Okay, so construction is also industry. Okay, so manufacturing means whatever you are manufacturing in house. Okay, so we can separate manufacturing from other types of industries. So manufacturing is a kind of industry. So manufacturing, you'll have automobiles, you have a manufacturing of iron, you have manufacturing of steel, you have bauxite, you have manufacturing of medicines, pharmaceutical. So it is also an industry. There are other industries which are like not related to manufacturing. Like I have told you about construction industry, it is not about manufacturing. Okay, so let us understand these manufacturing industries one by one. So manufacturing means what? Manufacturing means you are taking some raw material, value adding on that raw material, and converting it into a final product which can be consumed by the people. So you are calling it as a manufacturing. You are calling it as an activity of manufacturing. So here you can see this person has taken certain raw material, and by utilizing the certain technology and tool, he is converting into a certain valuable output. So it is a process of production. Getting it? So manufacturing, without manufacturing, currently no civilization is possible, no economy is possible. So that's why manufacturing, if you want to measure the strength of an economy, people see what is the manufacturing strength of that particular country. Getting it? Like you see China, manufacturing is very strong. United States, manufacturing is very strong. Japan, manufacturing is very strong. So their economies are very, very strong. Those who are not dependent upon the manufacturing, they are either dependent upon the agriculture or they are dependent upon the services. So, except IT services, other services are not that strong indicators of the economy, or not, they are not uplifting for the economy. Getting it? So, manufacturing is one of the base or backbone of any economy. So, when we are talking about manufacturing, this is the overall process of manufacturing which you are seeing on your screen. So, first of all, there is a raw material. Raw material will be there in the form of input. Then factors of production will be there, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, these things. Then you have a transport is required for raw material, then delivering the final product. Factory is required in between if you want to manufacture something. Output comes, then again transport comes, and then market comes. So this is an overall process of production. So in this, the final output for which everybody is working is a money. So money is required for each and every step. Money is involved at each and every step. We call it as a capital. So it can be working capital or other form of capital. Getting it? So this is a overall manufacturing process. Okay. So friends, let us understand how we can classify these manufacturing industries on various basis. So when we are talking about manufacturing and this classification, why it is so important? As I have told you, without manufacturing, no civilization is possible. Getting it? So, first of all, so many people are there in agriculture, and slowly, the people are like the number of people are more in the agriculture. We call it as a disguised unemployment. So, where you require 4 to 5 people, there 10 people are working. So, these extra 5 people are being absorbed in the manufacturing industry. So, it gives lots of employment. It reduces the burden on the primary activities. Getting it? So, manufacturing also can be utilized for bringing the equality and reducing the regional disparities which we see in our polity. Okay, there are lots of inequality in India. There is lots of regional disparity in terms of tribal areas, in terms of backward areas. So what we can do, we can just set up some industries in tribal and backward areas, and there these people will start flourishing. The area will start flourishing. People will go economically upward. Getting it? So there are so many examples of these types of industries which have been settled up in the tribal areas. For example, you set up let us say a honey plant, okay, honey packaging plant, or you say settle up a BD making plant in the tribal areas. So suddenly their income will go up. So it will bring down the regional disparities. Then manufacturing will bring lots of foreign exchange to you. So whatever you manufacture, India manufacturing so many things. So it is bringing lots of foreign exchange to India. So it is also very important from the export point of view. So these are the importance of manufacturing. Now let us understand how this manufacturing is important, and the industry, what will decide the location of the industry. Before that, let us understand the overall the position of the manufacturing in the economy. So right now it is very stagnant. Okay, from past let us say 4 to 5 years, it is only at 17%. So government is talking about bringing the contribution of this manufacturing to the overall industrial production up to 20% by 2025. So overall manufacturing contribution into the overall industrial production or overall industry should be 20%. So they are talking about this, getting it. So let us see how it happens. It is also growing by 9 to 10% per annum of we can say speed, but overall contribution is very stagnant. Now, when we are talking about manufacturing and industry, the location of industry is very important factor. Various factors are there which determine the location of the industry. So what determines the location of the industry? So definitely we have seen this in previous NCRTs: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, socio-economic condition, government policies, okay, availability of cheap labor, skilled labor. These are the various important decisions that entrepreneurs see while setting up the location. So out of them, the common factor is a cost, because the final outcome is a profit. Every entrepreneur wants profit. So lesser is the cost, more is the profit. So cost of everything: cost of land, cost of labor, cost of raw material, cost of transportation, cost of production will be the determined factor. So the key decision making factor is a cost of everything. So many industries, many small units prefer themselves to put into such a location where there are supporting industries are there. So for example, there is a group of industries are there. So entrepreneur will decide, okay, I will set up my industries in the group of industry. So I will get the raw material, transport availability will be good, government policies are good, there will be subsidies and everything will be there, skilled labor and cheap labor will be available to me. This type of grouping of industry is called as agglomeration. Getting it? So many industries come together and they develop a co-ecosystem. They develop a cohabitation, and because of that, an agglomeration is being formed, which is a group of industries. So these are the various factors which are responsible for the industrial location. This we have seen in previous NCRTs as well, and again we are going to see in next chapter as well. It will come. So industrial location, these are the important factors. Now, how we can classify the industries? So industries can classify on multiple levels, like on the basis of raw material, on the basis of whether they are heavy industries or light industries. So various way we can classify the industries. So first of all, let us understand source of raw material. So what type of source of raw material, from where it is coming? So if the raw material is coming from the agriculture, you will call it as a agro-based industry. So what are the agriculture raw material used in the industry? You have a tea, you have a coffee, you have a cotton, you have a food processing industry like pulp industry, you have a flour industry. Okay, so many industries are agro-based in case of world and India. Then mineral-based industries. So mineral which are coming from the soil, which are coming from the earth directly. So what are the minerals? You have iron, you have petroleum, you have a natural gas, aluminium. So these are the mineral based industries. Next way to classify according to their overall role played in the economic ecosystem. So for example, certain industries playing a role of a basic industry in the economy. For example, iron and steel. Without iron and steel, no industry is possible. So this is a basic input industry. This is a base industry. It require iron is required for making factories, machines, even infrastructure. Then it will require for making automobiles, then packaging goods. So many things will be made by the iron. Then consumer industry. So either you are a basic industry or you are a consumer industry. Consumer industry means what? Consumer, like you're producing refrigerator, you are producing sanitizers, you are producing cricket bats, you are producing mobiles, you are producing pens. So you are consuming consumer industry. So the basic on the basis of role they play, in this way we can classify the industry. Third type of industries classification is on the basis of capital invested. So how much amount of capital is being invested? Whether small capital is invested up to 1 crore or less than 1 crore, we'll call it as a small scale industry. If 1 crore to 10 crore is invested, you will call it as a medium scale industry. More than that is invested, then it is a large industry. Getting it? So small industry, medium industry, in large industries, in this ways you can classify the industries. Getting it? So these are the three ways, and the next way we can classify the industry is on the basis of ownership. This we have seen in the 9th standard NCERT as well. So if government is owning, you will call it as a public sector undertaking. A private individual is owning it, then you are calling it as a private industry. Jointly, private individual and government are owning it. It's a joint sector undertaking. If workers are owning it, you will call it as a cooperative. So this we have already seen. This type of classification we have seen. Then basis of bulk and weight of raw material. So whether it is a bulky industry, whether it is a very heavy industry or lighter industry. For example, iron and iron ore is a very heavy thing. So this is a heavy industry. Light industries means very light materials. Light material is used in the industry overall. You have minerals, some small minerals like for example salt production, light industry. Then some electronics goods, small electronics goods. So for example tube lights, bulbs. These are the light industries. Okay. Then agro-based industries. Again here also in the bulk and raw material based industry, agro-based is also one of the industries. So agro-based industries material you can has unique properties. Some material are heavy. Okay, so for example you are carrying huge amount of let us say grains in the tray. Some materials are weight losing. For example, sugarcane it loses its weight in 24 or 48 hours. Getting it? So some material is liquid material, some is a solid material. So that's why agro-based industries. So this way we can classify the industries. So these are the way of classification of industries. Now let us understand some examples of these industries. First industry is a textile industry. Okay, textile is definitely agro-based industry, as well as we can call it as a light industry. So textile industry is a second largest employer in the country after agriculture. Okay, almost 40% of the people are employed in this textile industry. So a huge amount of people are employed in the textile industry. So why this many number of people are employed in the textile industry? So there are various steps which require huge amount of people. So fiber production. So fiber production, you have to separate fiber from the cotton. So raw fiber itself require huge amount of people. Then spinning. You want to make a threads, you want to make a yarn. Okay, so a bunch of a thread is called as a yarn. So these people out of these cotton, they will make yarn. Like you have seen Gandhiji was weaving the on his charkha. So final outcome was a thread. It was yeah, it was gathered around a small stick and it was known as a yarn. So spinning industry outcome is a yarn. Then by using these threads, some people, we call them as a weaver, they will do the weaving and knitting and they will produce a cloth. We will call it as a fabric. Now this fabric, we require very colorful fabrics. So dyeing and finishing industry will be there. And after dyeing and finishing, then garment will be made. So all these stages, you require huge amount of people for the working. So let us understand India's overall insight into the textile industry. So in case of India, so this industry, as we have seen, is the second largest employer. So huge amount of employment generation is there. Huge amount of foreign exchange is there. This is the only self-reliant industry in case of India. So India has a huge history for cotton textile. As you know that since ancient time, we are ahead in the cotton and cotton textile production. In Harappan period, cotton was known as a sindon. Okay, so we used to export that into the Mesopotamia, Egypt. To them, we used to export the cotton. So that's why we had a very a high share in the world trade during the ancient times till 11th 12th century, getting it. Even the Arabian people and the European people used to wear the clothes and cottons made by the Indian people. So because of that, our industry has become self-reliant in all the spheres, starting from the raw material up to the garment making. So this is the only industry which is self-reliant. Self-reliant means you don't have to import anything from outside, everything is produced inside. So only industry of that kind. So pre-independence or just before, just near independence, the modern type of textile, we can say in the form of textile mill, was first started in Mumbai in 1854, just before your revolt of 1857. Okay, then there were world wars, 1820 and 1920 and 1940. So that time there was a huge demand for the textile and huge demand for the cotton for various purposes. So because of that, it gave boost to the Indian cotton industry. But in a sense, did India benefited from this? No, not at all. Though it gave boost to the cotton industry, most of the profit used to go to the Britain. So it is said that entire London, which is very prosperous city nowadays in the world, has been constructed based on the profit garnered from this cotton textile and cotton textile industry of India. Getting it? So that's why we cannot say this actually benefited us these two world wars. Okay. Now let us understand how this industry fares in case of India. If you see in the detail, this industry has a fiber, then they collect the fiber, they make the thread, we call them as the yarn. Out of yarn they make a cloth, and out of cloth they make a uh, fabric, sorry, they make a garments. So here we are highly proficient, or we are highly very sufficient in producing the all types of yarns. Very high quality threads are being produced in case of India. Okay, but fabric, or we can say making of the cloth out of that yarn, is not very developed in case of India. So we are lacking in fabric making. Our mills are not sufficient, our weaver are not sufficient by for in case of using very high quality yarn. So what happens, most of our yarn is exported to the Japan, countries like Japan, USA, and uh, low quality yarn is being imported by the Indian weavers. So these weavers will this imported yarn, yeah, they will use and they will locally produce something, getting it. So that's why these fabric production, we are lacking in utilizing the high quality yarn, and these types of machines we don't have, getting it. So that's why this is one of the important thing. So this weaving industry is very highly decentralized. So reason for that is that India is the only country which have a highest number of weaves. We have almost 120 kind of weaves. Other countries like Japan, USA, and they have 4 to 5 types of weaves. But India, 120 types of weaves. Why? Because each and every section of the country have some sort of weaving skill. Somebody will weave Kanchipuram. Somebody will weave uh, uh, chicken curries. Somebody will weave the fulkaris. Somebody will weave the paithani. Somebody will weave some other type of silk. Okay, so that's why we have 120 types of weaves. Getting it? But other countries have 4 to 6. But the problem is that we are not able to utilize the high quality yarn or high quality thread. So we are importing the low quality. So this is a major drawback of the India, that we are very bad in weaving, knitting and processing. Getting it? Okay. So that's why spinners are exporting yarn and apparel manufacturers are importing fabric. They are importing the low quality cloth from outside. So that's why it is very important to develop these knitting and weaving skills in case of India. Now let us understand this industry has why this industry cannot process its own made yarns. It is because people are in this industry are very poor. The entrepreneur in this industry are very poor. Competitiveness in the industry is very, very high. We are facing high competition inside the India. We are facing high competition from outside countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam. Also, there is a competition from the artificial fiber. Like you have a Vimal of Reliance. So this is a polyester. You have a nylon. So what happened because of the polyester and nylon? People stopped using the natural fibers itself. Getting it? So power supply is very bad. Nowadays it has improved, but overall in the villages where these weavers are there, it is very, very bad. People are poor. They don't have good quality machines. There is a lots of competition from the artificial fiber and countries from outside like Bangladesh, Egypt, Vietnam. Okay, so that's why we have we are facing all these issues. That why we are not able to process our own yarn. So this is very, very important from our mains point of view. Now, next industry here is a jute textile industry. It is also a fiber industry, agro-based industry. The thing with a jute textile is it is highly dependent upon the water. Like cotton textile, which is not dependent upon the water, jute is highly dependent upon the water. Jute producing areas are Assam, West Bengal. What happened after partition? The jute mills remained in India, but the producing area, maximum area which was producing the jute, almost three-fourths of the area went into the Bangladesh. So first jute mill started in Kolkata itself as that is the center of producing the jute. So 1855 in Rishra, this jute mill was started. So somewhere around same time when cotton mill was started 1854, it started 1855. Okay. So we are one of the highest producer of the raw jute. Getting it? But we are not the biggest exporter because Bangladesh is the biggest exporter. As we know that the huge amount of area they have under the jute production. So water is very important for the production of jute. That's why Kolkata and Northeast India is one of the center for the production of jute because huge amount of water is available. So from growing to the processing, you require water. So this Kolkata Hooghly River is there. Also, it requires very cheap labor. So this they have Kolkata has a cheap labor from Bihar, Odisha, and so many part of the northeastern India. So transport is available, market is available, ports are available for export. Getting it? So that's why these centers are very good for the development of jute. This industry is facing the challenges. It was facing the challenges, but now slowly, slowly it is coming up. So again, because of the artificial fiber, so jute bags are there, so they will get wet because of the water. They will catch the moisture. Okay, so that's why the powdered material or grains you cannot store them for a longer period of time. So people started using the nylon bags, like white color grain bags you see. So they will be much safer from the water and these types of things. But now what happened, because we have seen that the artificial fiber, these bags are destroying the environment. So government is giving impetus to the jute. At least now slowly, slowly they are giving impetus that the smaller level to the larger level, you should use the jute. Even countries outside the India, so large amount of the countries like European countries, United States, they have said that we must use jute over the nylon or polythene because that is good for the climate, that is good for the environment. But we have still very stiff competition from the Bangladesh. We have stiff competition from the Southeast Asian country. So these are some of the challenges faced by the jute industry. Now next industry is a sugar industry. Our everyone's requirement is a sugar. So many things are made, cannot be made, and nothing can be made nowadays without sugar. So ancient time, there wasn't sugar in India. We used to use jaggery and khandasari. It's one of the whitish color material used instead of sugar. It is good compared to sugar. So sugar has some drawbacks, health drawbacks, like it gets absorbed very quickly in your blood. So it is not considered as a, it is not considered as a good. It is a reason for the uh, heart diseases and let us say is diabetes and all. Okay. So India is one of the top producer of the sugar after Brazil, second largest producer of the sugar, and first in case of good. Indians you eat this good and khansari, not the outside people. So as we know that the northern plains are very fertile and they have a huge amount of availability of water. So sugar cane area is mostly situated in the northern region. But what is the important thing is that sugarcane is a crop which requires tropical type of atmosphere. So nowadays, what is happening? The sugarcane industry are slowly shifting towards the peninsula because we have tropical atmosphere. So because of that, sugar content is more in the sugarcane, and this area is also has also made this cooperative movement very successful. That's why slowly these industries are shifting from the northern plain to the Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, this type of region. Getting it? But still, there are some challenges in this industry. So challenges are the sugar producing process is very water guzzling process. It requires 25 liters of water, okay, to produce 1 spoon of sugar. So as we know, we are always facing droughts. Okay, like Kerala was under drought, Tamil Nadu was under drought, Maharashtra was under drought in 2016. So sugar industries are facing the challenges that water requirement is less in the peninsula. Northern India, what is happening? Sugar content is less in the industry. Then it is a seasonal industry. Seasonal industry only during the November, October to November only there will be season of the sugarcane production. So till that time there won't be any sugar factories running. Okay. So sugarcane, one of the important thing is you have to transport it within 48 hours to the factory. Otherwise, the sugar is automatically lost from the sugarcane. It gets reduced. So that is also one of the thing that transportation needs to be very quick. Okay, and also there is a byproduct of the sugar called as a bagasse. So till the time there was a very practice of the sugarcane industry to dump the bagasse. So 100% sugarcane was not utilized. Now this bagasse has a very high calorific value. So instead of coal, these sugarcane industries are burning bagasse to produce the electricity. So it is a called as a co-generation. So the sugarcane industry, government is not providing them electricity. They are telling them you utilize your own bagasse and produce your own electricity. Getting it? So these are some of the major challenges which sugarcane industry is facing. Okay. Now next type of industry is a mineral based industry. So mineral based industries, iron and steel is the first industry. Iron and steel production, the process is very, we can say it's a little bit of complex process. So first thing you have to bring the raw material. You require iron, you require coal, you require manganese, you require limestone, you require chromium, you require nickel. So first thing is put iron ore into the blast furnace along with the coal. What happens because of the very high heat? Iron gets melted. It gets converted into the pig iron. So this is a very purified iron. Then for making the steel, you mix it with a manganese, chromium and other things. Then steel is made and then steel is sent to the various parts of the world. So this is the overall process of steel making, getting it. So one of the basic industries without which you cannot survive. So steel industry, the main ingredients are iron, coking coal, not normal coal. Coking coal is a specialized coal with a very high calorific value, and limestone. So the quantity used is 4 is to 2 is to 1 can be asked in our preliminary examination. Okay. So for steel making, you require manganese, chromium and nickel as well. So India was the second largest industrial production in 2016. We have seen this. Okay, we are largest producer of the sponge iron, a little bit purest form of iron, but our per capita consumption is very less compared to world, only 70 kg, and world per capita consumption is 224 kg. So that's why it is very important to utilize the consumption of steel. But now aluminium has come, which is replacing the steel. So that's why consumption may not increase. Now, there are two types of steel plants. One type of steel plant is these scrap pickers come to our home. They ask for the steel things to you. They'll pay you 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 10 rupee for a small steel items, and they will collect these steel items and they will give to some one small industry. It is called as a mini steel plants. So they will melt it and recycle it. This is a mini steel plant. And there is a integrated steel plants like we know Bhilai and all. So they will bring the iron ore and they will make the steel out of it. So two types of steel plants are there in case of India. Now they are located mostly near coal belts. So we know coal belts. We have Chota Nagpur Plateau and Chhattisgarh here. So you have availability of coal, you have electricity, water, and cheap labor is also available in this region. Then South India also we have this steel making industry. So mostly it is controlled by the government sector, and this is produced by the Steel Authority of India. So government undertaking Steel Authority of India. So yesterday also we have seen India and China had a same steel production in 1950s, but after that China went ahead and now it is world's largest producer of the steel and India is not yet. Okay, so China is also producer as well as consumer. So Chinese people are making very cheap goods available to everyone. So that's why they are one of the biggest consumer of the steel. So in India, almost all steel plants are concentrated in the Chota Nagpur Plateau region. So steel industry from last 4 to 5 years is struggling with various issues. One of the biggest issue is our cost of production is very high compared to countries like China. So this China, what is doing? It is dumping steel in India and United States market. So that was one of the biggest thing. That's why we put import duties to the Chinese products. United States also put import duties to the Chinese products, steel products. Okay. So this is one of the biggest issue we are facing from last 3 to 4 years. And there are other issues like availability of coking coal. Coking coal is a very specialized coal. It has to be made. It is not naturally available. When you have bituminous coal is burned without oxygen, then it makes a coking coal. So it has a very high calorific value. So availability of coking coal is very less. So we have to give the constant heat to the melting iron. So that's why coking coal is required. We have very less availability and we have to import it from Indonesia, Australia. Okay, labor productivity is very low and irregular supply of energy is there, poor infrastructure. So these are the various things that Indian coal industry is suffering from. So government has taken various steps and let us see what happens. So India is aiming to improve the coal production by 2025. So huge amount of production we are expecting. So let us see. Now we don't know, the corona has reduced the overall speed of the world economy. Let us see what happens. Next industry is aluminium industry. The raw material from the aluminum industry is a bauxite. Bauxite is melted and alumina is being produced, and from that, with the presence of cryolite, aluminium is final product. Getting it? So this aluminium, as we have seen, is very good product in terms of strength. It is as strong as steel. Getting it? When it is mixed with other things, it can be used for the conduction of electricity. So its conductivity is good. Its malleability is very good. So it can be molded into various shapes. So its weight is very less, but strength is like a steel. So it is used in the aeroplane. It is used in the heavy machineries. It is used in even the weaponaries. Weapons are not now steel weapons; they are aluminium weapons. Getting it? We have seen the story of Napoleon III as well, of aluminium, how he treated the guests with the aluminium utensils, and the guests, some guests who were not that much important, he gave them gold utensils. Okay, so this is one of the substitute for the copper, zinc, and lead. So production is in the Odisha and Kerala and Chhattisgarh region of Maharashtra. Odisha is the highest producer of the uh, bauxite. Okay, so many plants are located in the Odisha region. So friends, these are one of the important process of production of aluminium. Okay, next industry is a chemical industry. Nowadays, we cannot live without chemicals. Everything is done with the chemicals. Starting from now, even milk is a chemical because it is done with the so many processes. Fats are removed, pasteurization is done, so many things are done. So it finally it is not in the natural format. So everything is becoming chemical. So chemical now, starting from medicine to the floor cleaner to the paint to the so many things, chemicals are required. So it is one of the fastest growing industry in the world. One of the fastest growing industries in the world is a chemical industries. So it is also large scale and small scale, organic and inorganic. Some chemicals are organic chemicals extracted from the living organisms. Some chemicals are inorganic chemicals, not their source of origin is other than the living organisms. Okay, so inorganic chemicals like sulfuric acids, very important, like they have very much important in paints and dyes, fertilizers and so many things. Soda ash, okay, they will make gas and uh, detergents and paper. So many things are made out of soda gas, and then you have a caustic soda. So these are the inorganic chemicals. Organic chemicals, we know there are so many organic chemicals. Petrochemical is one of the biggest organic chemicals. Vehicles are running with this. So then it is as a raw material for various purposes, like uh, made up of this PVC pipes are made up of this petroleum byproducts. Okay, tars like road making tars, bitumens are made up of petroleum byproducts. Fiber, like I have told about Reliance Fibers, this Vimal fiber, it is nothing but a byproduct of the petroleum. So nylon, polyester. Okay, so organic chemical plants are uh, these are these are very important from the economic point of view. Now, next industry is the fertilizer industry. Fertilizer, as you know, we are not using organic fertilizer nowadays, using urea. All the farmers growing the urea. Because of the nitrogen content, the size of the crop increases, size of the grain increases. So urea, okay. So nitrogen is very important. Okay, so that's why this oil and gas industry act as a raw material provider for the fertilizer industry. Okay, so fertilizer, if you see, the nitrogen-based fertilizers are produced in case of India, but phosphate-based produce fertilizers are have to be imported because the potash-based fertilizers have to be imported because we don't have potash reserves in case of India. So it has to be entirely imported. So that is one of the highest cost. Okay. So in India, we have this fertilizer producing plants, specifically urea and all in Gujarat, in Maharashtra. Other plants are there in Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, these regions. We have other like phosphate plants. So fertilizer industry is one of the important backbone for our agriculture. So these are all chemical fertilizers we are talking about. Okay. Next industry is the cement industry. Very, very important industry. Without this, no construction can happen. So what are the raw material which is required for the production of cement? You require limestone, you require coal, require gypsum, then clay, and then some iron ore is also required. Okay. So these are the various raw materials used for the cement production. So these cement industries are generally located, these sources of raw material. Okay. So it has a huge value in terms of export as well. So some cement plants are also located near ports. So the first cement plant came in Chennai. Okay. Also in Gujarat, also they have come. Nowadays, because transportation facility is good and cement is not much, we can say, weight losing material. So that's why the raw material can be transported. There won't be any issue. So that's why many cement plants are located near cities as well. Getting it because market availability is very closer. So they will put it near city region. Getting it. So cement industry is one of the very important industry. Next is the automobile industry. Automobiles are various types. We have a two-wheelers, we have a three-wheelers, we have a railway bogies, we have a aeroplanes, we have a four-wheelers, we have a trucks, we have passenger vehicles, then you have a army vehicles. So many, it's a very huge industry. So different industries are uh, uh, present in different areas. So for example, army vehicles are made in the Madhya Pradesh Shaktiman trucks. Okay, then you have a Pune region where you'll see Mercedes and all very luxurious four wheelers are made near Mumbai and Pune region. Gurugram you will see two wheelers are made. Chennai you will see your Hero Honda and all Bajaj. These are there in Gurugram and Chennai region, southern region. So various places these automobile industries dispersed all over the country. So raw material is not weight reducing. So they are located near market region. So immediately they can manufacture and sell it into the market. Okay. Next is a technology and electronics industry. So technology and electronics industry means you have mobile phones, you have computers, laptops, digital paints, clocks, calculators, so many things you have. So, because of the booming in the IT industry, this technology and electronics industry is also booming. Technology and electronic industry generally located near the dry regions like Rajasthan, Bengaluru. Bengaluru is the Silicon Valley of India. Okay, so it is one of the biggest technology hub of India. Then, other than that, you have a Pune, you have a Hyderabad. Hyderabad, we have a tech cities. Okay, then you have a Chennai, Kolkata. So many places are there. Okay, so this is current and future industry for the employment generation. Slowly, manufacturing will be more of a technological and electronic goods compared to other things. So it is also one of the future industry. Okay. So technological industry, you can see this red color. Okay, all over the places now it has been dispersed all over the India, starting from Srinagar, okay, to the here Guwahati in the northeast. It is dispersed all over the country. So very important, we have a technological industry. So this is all about the industries. So very important things, very important, can be asked in our exams. This is not the last time we are seeing the industries. We are going to see it again and again and in more detail. Now let us understand the impact of these industries, negative impact specifically. So impact in terms of pollutions. So there are three major impact of these industries: air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, noise pollution. All the four impacts of the industries. Air pollution, as we know, smoke, like you have a sulfuric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, you have a methane, you have ozone depleting agents like CF6, okay, and chlorine gases, and so many things are there. Then these particulate matters are there, always in the news in Delhi. PM 2.5, PM 10. These particulate matter go into your lung and your bloodstream. It's very destructive. But because of this, I think immunity system of the Delhi people has increased. Now the corona, this recovery rate is almost 80-85% in Delhi. Okay, that is another thing. Then water pollution by the industries. People will directly discharge their water into the rivers, into the nalas. Because of that, the 70% of the Yamuna river in Delhi is nothing but this wastewater coming from the factories and household. Getting it. So there is one pollution called as a thermal pollution in the water. When these industries, when they directly release the hot water into the river, the pH of the river changes, the oxygen content of the river changes. Because of that, wildlife in the river dies. Fishes will die. You know that fishes cannot survive in the hot water because hot water does not contain the oxygen. Oxygen is lost from the hot water. So fishes will die. Animals will die. Amphibians will die. This So plants are there, they will die. So this is called as a thermal pollution. So this is one of the reason of the why so many sudden deaths of the fishes happen in the rivers. This is one of the reason for that. Then there is a soil pollution. We know that heavy metals get mixed in the soil. Sometimes because of the acid rain, soil is corroded, it is degraded, it gets polluted. And noise pollution, we know that because of the industries, definitely we have a huge noise pollution. So these are the four important pollutions which are there because of the industries, and there needs to take various steps to deal with this environmental degradation and noise pollution. Like you have to treat the water and then leave into the nalas and rivers. You have to use the back filters. You have to use various types of filters are there. Electrical filters are there. Back filters are there. Normal filters are there. So you have to use these filters to filter the air and then leave into the atmosphere. So you have to plant more trees around your industry so they can absorb more and more carbon dioxide and methane. Machinery in the factory needs to be very energy efficient. So they use less fuel. When machineries are energy efficient, you burn less coal, you burn less oil. So these things needs to be done to take care of the environment. So if your factory is nearby around jungle, because of the noise pollution, animals will be destroyed. So use the noise filters, getting it. Use the maintenance of the machinery should be kept. Maintenance should be done frequently. So these things need to be taken care. So the wrong impact or bad impact of these industries can be avoided, getting it. So these are the few important points needs to be remembered from main's point of view. Okay, so this is overall chapter of this industries and manufacturing. Hope you have understood. Okay, so let us understand multiple choice question based on this chapter. So which one of the following industries use limestone as a raw material? Yes, which industry? Cement industry. Which of the following agencies market steel for the public sector plants? We have seen Steel Authority of India. Which of the following industries use bauxite as a raw material? Aluminium. Which of the following industries manufacture telephone computer? It's very simple. I will not answer. So these are the very important. This is one of the important chapter. Hope you have understood. If you have any doubt, please let me on the Telegram. Okay, see you for the next chapter. Thank you.